Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's going on? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for Camp Blood 1 and 2. Written and directed by Brad Sykes, Camp Blood 1 and 2 stars all of this up. Out and about on a camping trip in the woods without a care in the world, 4 campers find themselves in an unknown world. With the death of their guide and at the mercy of a cold-blooded killer, the trip of fun in the sun soon takes a wrong turn. With friends slowly disappearing, so does the chance of getting out alive. Hello there, you lovely bunch of psychopaths. It's that time again. Time to take one more trip to the woods as we watch yet another questionable horror film. This time we'll be taking a look at the first 2 entries in the Camp Blood series, and while they're not exactly cinematic classics, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. There are currently a total of 14 entries in this franchise, and the original idea was to cover all of them in one video, but time and mental stability got in the way. Plus the first 2 entries tell a complete story, so why not just bang them 2 together? Maybe I'll cover the rest at some point soon. Do you like your Friday the 13th rip-offs with a side of whodunit mystery and a clown mask? Well, you're in luck. But before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you, you can see this video completely uncut and early at patreon.com/JonjoLyons for as little as $2 a month. That's it. Want to see the uncut videos and gain access to the Discord? Go over there now. But anyway, it's a double feature review, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to meet the whingiest final girl in horror movie history. This is Camp Blood 1 and 2. The movie begins with these 2 taking a walk as the woman talks the science of their surroundings and the man stares at her asshole. She stops asking if the fella is listening and he says he is, but she's distracted.
You're here to watch birds, not me.
Not me! They have a little kiss when we cut to the POV of somebody watching them. And I really love the music choice here, going from menacing to Final Fantasy VII music. We also get to see her boobies. Ah, what the f*** are you doing? Get your strong hand away from my face. Oh, Jesus Christ, she's doing it again! The fun is interrupted when the girl hears her
Agrarius anthropophagus.
I'm not even going to try to say that. You could have just said bird. And so Big Man runs off to snap a picture. He looks around, but instead of the bird, he finds some killer in a clown mask who stabs him right the f through his chest. The girl goes looking for him and catches a traditional slasher jump scare when he randomly swings down into frame all bloody like. She's then chased by the clown all the way into a title card. Cut to this woman Trisha running, then picking up a newspaper sporting the headline, "Famous wildlife photographer disappears." She then heads inside her house as Resident Evil 1 music plays. She gets in the shower as outside we see through the POV of someone creeping through the house.
You idiot!
He then joins her in the shower and we just cut away.
Did you see this?
See what?
No nudity, no penetration, no piss play. What the f is the point of anything anymore? Cut to the couple in the kitchen as the woman tells Steve about the wildlife photographer going missing. She says her car was last seen near Camp Blackwood, which is enough to have her end the conversation there with the bug-eyed glare when the phone rings. On the other end is Jay, who asks if Steve is ready for their big weekend and moans about having to pick up some other girl, Nicole, as she's gonna take ages. Steve tells him not to rush as they're just packing up when Jay nearly gets into an accident.
Motherfucker! Where the f did you learn how to drive, huh? Don't Don't give me that, you stupid son of a I'll on your ass off the road.
You're using your cell phone while driving, head. Unless the other guy was driving with his feet while reading a book and facing the other way, I think you're the one in the wrong. They say goodbye.
Ciao.
Ugh. And Trisha carries on the conversation, confirming Camp Blackwood as the location of their weekend away. Steve is a bit of an arsehole about it, not understanding why Trish might be worried about going to the exact same place.
We're gonna have a great time this weekend, alright? Trust me. Trust me, okay?
Cut to these two sipping on moonshine in the woods, and then to Jay picking up Nicole. He moans about her bringing too much stuff, then orders her to spit out her gum, making it clear if it wasn't already that he's a giant piece of shit.
Now spit that gum out. You know I hate that peppermint smell.
It's not peppermint, it's wintergreen.
Whatever it is, it makes me want to puke. Spit it out.
They then drive away as we cut to Trish and Steve packing. Trish brings up him bringing his hunting knife, asking if he plans on killing anything this weekend, but he says there are a lot more uses for the knife other than just killing, pulling it out and waving it around. This seems to freak Trish out, and when Steve asks what's wrong, she says the missing girl is part of it, but they've also had a rough couple of months.
It's just been a rough couple of months for us, you know? And
I know it has, Eddie. I know it has. That's why I wanted to take this trip. I thought that it would make things better.
So you're worried there's a possibility he might try to murder you? If that's a genuine concern, maybe taking him camping isn't such a good idea, Trish. Steve says if she doesn't want to go, they won't go, as the most important thing right now is that they spend time together.
What's the f***ing hold up? God.
I know the movie's only really just started, but when the f*** is this gonna die? Outside, everyone says their hellos, dumps their shit in the car, and they leave. Cut back to the pissed up hunters as they try to flush a buck out of the bushes. Instead of a deer, however, they find a wildlife woman laying all f***ed up on the ground. They try to help as behind them, the killer clown creeps up with his weapon drawn.
George.
They died as they lived. Fat, stupid, and unable to please a woman. Like me. Back in the car, Nicole asks what Trish is reading, and she says The Awakening.
was that movie with Charlton Heston about a mummy? No.
You stupid you dumb. You should be embarrassed and... Oh no, it is that one. Sorry. After telling the girls to shut up, Jay moans about not getting any reception up here, and Nicole stinking his car out with nail polish, then turns on Steve, demanding to know where the this place is. Steve says the camp isn't really on the map, so they go ask this fella, beeping at him and giving the man a heart attack. They then panic and stop the car to go and check if he's okay.
Oh my God.
Thought I was dead, huh?
Crazy son of a...
I like this guy. Mr. Thatcher here serves as the movie's harbinger, who warns them that they don't want to go to Camp Blood.
Think you can push us locals right off the map, huh? Well, you're not gonna get me. Probably Thatcher's staying right where he is. Yes, sir. Ha!
By far my favourite performance of the film. He says if they go into those woods, they'll never make it out alive, and the group ignores that shit, once again asking for directions. The man finally gives up the details, and the group drive off as he shouts after them.
And say hello to the clown for me!
Say hello to Clown for me. Is the killer's name Clown? Jesus Christ, creativity was really never an option for this movie, was it? Cut to our heroes pulling up at the Camp Blood sign, which Trish takes a look at. Jay complains about the guide being late, and Trish wonders if what that nutter just said to them is actually true.
About the camp being haunted?
Not haunted, Trisha. Okay, haunted would imply ghosts, okay? Now, according to our Mr. Thatcher, the madman that lives in this woods is still very much alive.
The clown.
What?
Ah, he said the clown, not just clown. F it, I'm gonna call the killer Clown anyway. The others didn't hear the Fortnite dancing lunatic say anything about a clown, so Jay asks if Trish has finally lost it when Steve says whatever the guy said, he was crazy and trying to scare them away for whatever reason. Trish still doesn't feel comfortable about the whole situation, but no one seems to care, instead opting to go into the woods alone without a guide. I've never been to the woods in America, but do you really need a guide to go camping? I guess it depends where you are, but this doesn't exactly look like Yellowstone Park, does it? I'm assuming Yellowstone's one of the big ones. I have no intention of ever finding out. I've seen too many of these movies. Cut to everyone walking and then taking a quick break. They hear the bird that got the wildlife woman up earlier, and Steve and Trish go to check it out while Jay and Nicole hang back to suck face. Cut to Trish and Steve as they almost immediately spot someone lurking in the woods. Steve tries to jump this randomer who gets the better of him and is then revealed to be their guide, Harris. She says she was making her way back up to the parking lot but just wanted to get a feel for the place first as it's been years since she was last here. Apparently no one wants to explain why Steve just jumped a total stranger, so they head back to Nicole and Jay, who is of course a total head.
You might remember the part where we agreed to meet at the Camp Blackwood parking lot at 2 o'clock sharp.
Yeah.
Here it is, 3:30, and you're d***ing around in the woods.
Watch it, Jay.
Also, is that how Steve is just going to greet everybody he meets in the woods? I understand people have gone missing around these parts, but if you're shook enough to have to jump everybody you see on sight, then maybe going camping wasn't such a good idea. I hate to repeat myself, but for f***'s sake.
Now, I said I was sorry for being late, but I'm not going to say it again. And if you got a problem with me being your guide, just say so. I'll leave and you can find your own way out of here.
He definitely just... The group agrees to keep Harris as a guide and they grab their stuff before heading off. Cut to sometime later as they take another break and Trish asks about Camp Blood's history. Harris gets all cagey and says she doesn't know what the old man was talking about before telling them to get moving once again. Cut to Harris telling them they'll be setting up camp for the night when Steve gets overly excited about a rope swing. And then the editing gets interesting. First the creepy music comes in for no reason at all. Then we cut to the clown. Then we cut to Jay and Nicole having broken away from the group. Jay tells her to look closer, then disappears when that scene just finishes and we cut back to the others setting up the tent. Harris says she's going for a walk as Nicole continues to search for Jay, finding his cell phone, then his shirt when he jumps out on her and catches a slap.
Idiot! I almost had a heart attack! Oh, you think that's funny?
Oh, Jesus.
They start kissing as we cut to the POV of somebody watching them, then unfortunately cut back to Steve and Trish. She says she feels a lot better after getting that shifty response about the camp from Harris, but when Steve tries to put the moves on her, she rejects him, saying they have all weekend. Back with Jay and Nicole, they're caught by Harris.
Holy shit.
Getting in touch with nature?
What the f*** are you doing?
Just observing.
Freak!
We could really use that firewood if you ever get around to it. I'll see you back at camp.
You just couldn't wait, could you?
Oh, f off. Where is the killer clown? Can someone please die? Cut back to the camp as Harris asks Steve about his knife and Jay and Nicole join them. Jay tells Steve about Harris spying on them and gets Nicole to come sit with him before asking Harris to light their fire.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that went up quick. From one match, no less. She's like Bear Grylls if Bear Grylls wasn't such a pussy. Cut to the heroes later that night when they decide to tell ghost stories. The boys mention the tried and true Bloody Mary and escaped mental patient tales when Harris brings up the clown and Camp Blood. Trish says she told her she'd never heard of Camp Blood, but Harris says she didn't want to scare her. She then starts to tell them the story where 20 years ago today, Stanley Cunningham had just gotten off his last day of work only to return home and find his missus getting banged by another bloke. Anyway, Charlie discovers them, kidnaps them, pops on the clown mask for no discernible reason, and leads them into the woods where he kills the f*** out of them. After that, the police found the bodies, but not Stanley. He was never seen again. Now, when people go into these woods, sometimes they never come back, and while some have their own explanations for where they disappeared to, Harris thinks the clown is still out there claiming his victims.
I think the clown's still out here, in these woods, claiming his victims. We could be next.
I f***ing hope so! With that, everyone goes to bed while Harris stays to watch the fire die out on its own. Jay reassures Nicole the story was bullshit before getting down to and then we get the exact same scene with Steve and Trish. Jay and Nicole then bang while Harris listens. And presumably cracks one off. Gotta put the fire out somehow. Cut to morning as Trish puts away her and wakes Steve up. She says she's going out for some fresh air when she discovers Harris dead, her face being burned to a crisp.
Trish!
Oh my God!
That is one crispy. Everyone panics with Trish saying this must have been the clown, but Steve ain't about to hear that saying whatever happened, they need to get the out of there.
He's playing with us.
What?
Don't you see? It's a game to him.
What the hell are you talking about, Trish? How do you suddenly have such a clear insight into the killer's motivation? Yeah, you heard a possible origin story last night, but how about you take a seat, Will Graham?
We don't have a guide. It's just a matter of time before he kills us all one by one.
Oh, Jesus.
Good lord, will someone please shut this whinging up? Her voice is so great and that's coming from me! Nicole seems to have gone completely catatonic from seeing Harris's barbecued mush, so Steve tells Jay to take care of her and they set off to find the trail. Cut to Nicole spraining her ankle on this branch like a d***head. The others try to help when the killer just fully runs out of them all and catches hands from Steve. Not very stealthy there, clown.
Come on. Bring it on. Come back here, you son of a bitch!
Steve, no! What are you doing?
Also, in the final frame, it looks like whoever was playing the clown went arse over tit. Look at that angle. They definitely ate shit there. Steve goes after the killer and Trish goes after him, leaving Jay to take care of Nicole by himself. Everyone runs around for a bit, then Steve finds the clown's machete and gets jumped. During this fight, we learn Steve is a master of parkour as he hops around the rocks, narrowly avoiding the killer's blade. Until eventually, he doesn't. That is truly tragic, if only for the fact that Trish is going to be a f***ing nightmare about it.
Oh my God! Steve! Steve, no!
The killer appears and starts chasing Trish, who screams and cries as she runs away.
No! No!
We then get a couple of flashbacks mid-chase to scenes we saw 20 minutes ago.
Look at her, she's dead! The clown killed her!
Maybe there is no clown. There is no clown.
Yeah, well, somebody did it.
Which, I don't know. Jay then jump scares Trish and they grab Nicole before dropping her again to fight about taking a break when the killer creeps up behind them. Clown knocks out Trish and kidnaps Nicole while Jay just watches like some useless screaming. He then takes the knife away from Trish.
Give me the knife.
No!
Give me that knife.
No! No! No!
Cut to Jay trying to rescue Nicole but getting himself lost in the woods. He panics and thinks he sees the killer coming at him, but unfortunately it turns out to be Nicole. The real killer then steps forward as Jay starts to laugh maniacally before getting his neck snapped. And that's the end of him. Finally! Cut to Trish making it back to the car. She's jumped by crazy man Thatcher and demands to know what happened. She says her friends were killed by the clown, but he says that isn't possible as it's just a story. He tells her he's gonna get her some help when the clown appears and Thatcher tries to chloroform her. Trish breaks free and they run around the car for a bit when the killer takes a swing and his victim catches the weapon with her bare hands like a boss. She then cuts Thatcher and fights the clown for a bit before running for her life and getting her back cut the up. Thatcher then drives at them with Trish dodging out of the way at the last second. Here's a little bit of behind the scenes trivia for this moment of the film. When that car hits the killer, it's actually a dummy, not a stuntman. I know the effect is so seamless it's hard to tell, but trust me, movie magic. The still alive killer picks up their mask and pulls it on as Thatcher goes to check on them before chasing Trish around the car again. She then machetes him to death. Nice! Now can you stop crying, please, Trish? Trish then finally pulls off the clown mask to reveal... Harris! But, hold on, who the f*** was in the fire? What the f*** is going on? Trish jumps in the car and runs the clown down when she suddenly appears in the back seat and starts strangling her.
I got you!
making her sound like your mum making me a happy boy. We then cut to Trish in a mental institution where she's met by Dr. West, who is played by the same guy who played Steve. He says the police found her all catatonic and up, then brought her here 4 days ago. This cop then enters, played by the same guy who played Jay, and basically pins all the murders on her. And just to be clear, her being in the woods with her friends was supposed to be all in her head, so the only people who actually died were the wildlife woman and her fella, the hunters, Thatcher and Harris.
There's also Gus Franco, George Guffey, Sally Brennan, and Victor Conant.
I don't know those people. I don't know who
Bromley
they are.
Thatcher, Harris Stanley.
Harris, it was Harris.
When the cop mentions Harris, Trish says she was the killer, but the cop ain't having it.
Isn't it obvious?
No. In fact, when we found you 4 days ago, we found Harris Stanley's blood all over your friend's car.
The doctor then says this might not be the best time as Trish continues to protest her innocence, saying Harris was Mary Lou's girlfriend and the Stanley Cunningham story was really about her. The cop says he'll be back tomorrow for the real story as Trish freaks out and a nurse, played by the same person that played Nicole, comes in with a sedative. They shoot her up and she chills out as they leave. The door then opens and the killer steps in, raising their blade.
No, please!
We see some final shots of the woods, then the sign, and the film cuts to black. The end! Well, what a twist! Does it make any sense in the sequel? Let's find out right now. The movie begins with these two taking a walk through the woods. They agree to stop and take a quick drink when the fella tells his partner about the murders that took place in these very woods last year, which he doesn't believe.
Drink your juice.
What? I'm serious. There was this clown. You see, a clown. He killed all these people.
Okay, now you're scaring me.
He mentions Trish being the sole survivor who many believe was the perpetrator of the crimes, but others think the clown is still around here, in the woods, looking for victims. The woman has enough of this talk, saying she's trying to drink her juice, and the man gets up to go and drain his dragon, as he puts it.
Gotta drain the dragon. Be right back.
Round the corner we watch as the fella pulls a clown mask out of his bag and puts it on. Now, be honest with me, okay? If you owned that mask, what would be the first thing you'd do with it? It's okay, you can tell Jonjo. I mean, it's not gonna feel good, but you've got to try it at least once. He creeps up behind his missus and jumps out to scare her, but unfortunately discovers she's already dead. And we also get some incredible face acting from this bloke.
Rose?
Such a roller coaster of emotions. Anyway, then he dies. The killer steps on the fake clown mask, then picks up his real one, which was also on the floor for some reason, as we get our title card. Cut to a Halloween-inspired opening credits sequence, which I honestly don't mind at all, and then to Trish walking through a forest fire. Along the path, she finds the clown mask, which she approaches and tries to pick up. Hold on a minute, is that supposed to be Harris? What the f happened to her face? Trish screams that oh so familiar scream as the clown puts her face on, picks up her machete, and then we get to see the greatest run in the history of cinema. Tom Cruise, take note. That's how you run. The clown gives chase when Trish finds herself at a cliff's edge overlooking the rocks Steve parkoured around in the last movie. She then spins back around to meet her fate. But it was all just a dream, so we find Trish still in the mental facility she was in at the end of the first film. And I really like this because you hardly ever find stories in films of this caliber that are a continuation of the previous installment. This is the last time that's going to happen in this series as far as I'm aware, but it's still cool. She's joined by the Doctor and Orderly, now played by different actors, not just a cast of friends filling in for no narrative purpose other than the fact that they couldn't be bothered to get other actors to fill those roles. Or it was cheaper. The Doctor tells Trish a movie director is here and wants to talk to her about the murders at Camp Blackwood.
You mean Camp Blood?
Whatever, you know what I mean. Anyway, the orderly pops cuffs on her and we meet the director, Worth Milligan.
Pleased to meet you.
Trisha Young, mental patient, suspected murderer.
Suspected murderer. Worth remembering that, folks. Worth reminds Trish it's been nearly a year since the previous murder spree and is somehow shocked that still no one's made a movie about it. He then presents her with his script based on the events of Camp Blood 1 titled Within the Woods. Remember that title for the third movie in this series, if I ever get around to it. He says this is their chance to tell the world what really happened in those woods, to get the full story as they still don't know who the killer really was. Trish says she told the police everything, and while Worth agrees that her story is an entertaining one, there's still no evidence to prove it's true. Worth says he believes her though, and that's why he wants her to serve as technical advisor on the film, so they can make sure the truth is told once and for all. Hold on a minute. Your plan to make your movie better is to have the suspected killer of the original massacre as part of the production, taking her back to where the murders happened, where she went through all of that trauma. That seems like a good idea to you. That's something the institution she currently resides in is going to be fine with, yeah? Trish asks how her movie is going to make people believe her story, and Worth cites Blair Witch as proof people will believe anything you tell them. After a lot more convincing and assurance she won't ever be put in front of the camera, Trish still says no, as does the doctor, saying he'll oppose Worth and the entire ridiculous project.
I'll oppose you and this ridiculous project.
This could be your last chance, Trisha, to set the record straight.
On the way back to her room, Trish gets half-heartedly attacked by another inmate who they chuck in his room as everyone screams. We then cut to Trish in her room for a previously on Camp Blood. We see the kitchen scene with Steve, the group finding Harris or whoever this poor innocent person was burned to a crisp, Steve dying, Trish discovering his body. Trish screaming in Thatcher's face about the clown, and finally Trish in the institution telling the authorities it was Harris.
Isn't it obvious?
No.
Back in present day, Trish leaps up and summons the orderly.
What is it?
I need to speak with Worth Milligan.
And then just like that, we're off to Hollywood, because apparently the director of a low-budget slasher movie has the power to supersede the Doctor. Why not? Cut to the casting call where we meet Ashley and Worth's creepy cameraman, Shemp Mosley. She auditions reading the dialogue between Thatcher and Trish at the end of the last movie as the real Trish and Doctor pull up outside. The director then tells her to scream.
I need you to scream.
Sounds about right to me. Worth then asks Shemp to put on the mask to get a better performance as Trish arrives in the hall.
I can't hear you.
Worth gives Ashley the part, who calls him a sick motherfucker and storms out, allowing Trish to enter.
Oh, Trisha. Take that damn thing off.
I am more confident than ever that this was an extremely good idea. Worth offers his guests a drink, then introduces Shemp to them. The doctor, who said he'd do everything in his power to make sure this didn't happen, then leaves, and Worth asks Trish to take a seat. Next, he asks her to look through a bunch of headshots and see if she can find someone who looks most like her dead boyfriend that she suspected of murdering, Steve. Trish then starts having a trauma-reduced flashback to moments before Steve died before getting up to go get some air. Cut to the roof where Trish bums a cigarette from this woman.
Excuse me, do you have a cigarette by any chance? Sure.
The sound design is top-notch in this movie, isn't it? The woman asks where the auditions are being held, then introduces herself as Adrian Palmer. They then say their goodbyes as Adrian heads inside. Cut to this woman auditioning.
I didn't do anything, I'm telling you. I've seen him, he's real, and he's here.
Wonderful, just absolutely wonderful.
Worth is thoroughly impressed with her skills, so gives her the part before sending her home. Cut to her in the hall where she's passed by Adrian. Adrian goes into the audition room, but Worth her off, saying they're fully cast. Trish then enters and Adrian tells her she won't be seeing her on set before leaving.
What was that about?
Nothing, just another day in Hollywood, baby.
Cut to the blonde at home on the phone, chopping a banana. We see through the POV of someone creeping around the property as the blonde strips down to her underwear, then releases her exquisite cushions. Hey, the people on the Discord came up with that one, okay? So don't blame me. If you want to have a go at them, just join patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. It's only $2 a month. We also see a bit of side bush when she gets out of the shower, so good times. The POV creeps up to the front door and enters before being startled by a ringing phone. The woman comes out to answer but just gets dial tone when her towel drops again. She then leans down to pick it up when she's attacked by a clown. He then throws her on the floor and starts strangling her when we get some more amazing sound design. And that is nowhere near enough blood for the amount of times that he just stabbed her. And the first two are supposed to be the good ones in this series. Cut back to the Holiday Inn as Trish enters the room to meet the cast. She says she's sorry for being late, but Worth says it's fine as they're still waiting for Lola, the blonde with the rockin' tits who just got stabbed to death. He then introduces her to the cast.
Guys, this is Trisha. She's our technical advisor, and, I should point out, the sole survivor of the actual Camp Blood murders.
The cast inquire about her incarceration, which no one seems all too bothered about, to be honest. They then introduce themselves. Worth says they can't wait much longer for the blonde when Trish brings up Adrian, the girl that he sent away yesterday. After being reminded who Adrian is, he hands Trish some headshots and tells her if she can find her in the pile to give her a buzz and tell her to get down there right now. Cut to Trish in the office as she fails to find the pic but starts dialing anyway. Behind her, this POV creeps in and she asks whoever she called for the number of Adrian Palmer, which she surprisingly gets. She redials and leaves a message telling Adrian the good news. There's a creaky sound and Trish goes to investigate when she's confronted by Clown. Trish runs for her life before turning to attack her assailant as the others come out to see what the screaming is all about.
You plan this, didn't you? You and your stupid movie!
Word, is this chick okay or what?
Yeah, again, this is smart. Taunt a suspected murderer by wearing the mask that they wore while killing their friends a year ago. This could never go wrong. Haven't you ever seen Flashback? Spoilers for Flashback. Good movie. The cast finally admit their concerns, but Worth reassures them that everything is fine. Cut to this edit.
We're almost there.
Then to Worth, Trish and Shemp drive into the location. They get to the sign when suddenly Thatcher speaks from the grave.
You and your friends don't want to go to Camp Blood!
Trish asks why they had to film at the actual camp when there's plenty of nice places around, but Worth says it's for realism and he wants everyone to feel the atmosphere of horror.
That's why we're going to be camping out here the entire shoot.
Wait a minute, you never said anything about us staying here.
Believe me, it'll help everyone get into their parts.
Oh, well, you're just a now, aren't you? If you make all these terrible choices and end up dying, you're not allowed to cry about it afterwards, okay? Trish, of course, refuses to stay at the site where all of her friends were murdered a year ago, possibly by her, and so Worth threatens to have her sent back to the institution.
You're a real you know that?
I just want to make the best movie possible.
Trish relents, saying let's just get this over with, and the three of them walk off into the woods in search of the cast. I love that edit. It's almost as if the mask is like, ooh. Cut to the cast where Vanessa is moaning about the director being late. Lance tells her to calm it and she sits with him. Anyway, he f***s off as Lance tries to flirt with Vanessa but is rejected.
I don't sleep with other actors, Lance. It's bad for my chakras.
You're what?
There's a scream and Todd comes running in saying he nearly got bitten on the arse by a snake when Worth, Trish and Shemp finally show up. Worth thanks Adrian for coming, then Trish and her have a chat with Adrian saying she had no idea Trish was involved in the murder spree last year.
Got a smoke? Sure.
Buy your own cigarettes, Trish, for f***'s sake. Lance asks Worth what they're doing first, and he says scene 37, the scene where they all get killed by the clown. The scene. So you're telling me in your movie, everyone dies in one scene. Okay. Unfortunately, they can't shoot anything until the PA Patrick turns up, which he does a second later, so problem solved.
Patrick?
What, man? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm Patrick.
I'm Worth, the film's director.
Cut to Lance getting touchy with Vanessa while Shemp tries to look up her skirt. Worth then asks the extremely unfunny Patrick to go and get their equipment.
You want me to go all the way up that hill to go get the equipment? Is that what you're asking me to do, man? No, seriously.
Cut to sometime later as they shoot the scene in black and white for some reason. Here they recreate the scene when Nicole sprained her ankle in the last movie, and it looks just as convincing here as it did then.
Nicole!
Shemp then misses his cue to attack, so Worth yells cut and gives his pisshead compadre a pep talk. The cast then complain about Shemp being constantly drunk.
This is very unprofessional. And we as actors don't feel comfortable around a guy like that, especially when he's swinging a machete.
Fair point.
Okay, well, lose the machete.
What? No, we need the machete. Lose the alcoholic. Worth gives Shemp the update, telling him to fake punch Vanessa, and they shoot the scene again. Oh, I mean, I knew it was coming, but damn!
She just got the wind knocked out of her.
Yeah, knocked out of her face! Good lord! Worth apologizes and Vanessa threatens to quit when the director says they should take a break and sends Patrick to go get some food. Cut to Patrick whinging on at himself about the director when he's approached by a clown. Thinking it's obviously Shemp, he doesn't run away, instead opting to cuss out the production some more. That is until the clown takes his hand. Patrick quickly bleeds out, landing with a splat. And we cut back to the cast moaning about being hungry. Trish eventually says they should go, but of course the director ain't hearing that shit. He tells her to take the cast down the trail and set up camp while he goes to look for Patrick. And I know it's minor, but Trish is smoking again, meaning she nicked another cigarette off of Adrian. Nightmare. Cut to Trish and the cast trekking as Trish once again experiences flashbacks to the previous year. She's then jump scared back to reality by Adrian.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Oh, well, don't think too long. You got prints to put up?
Now that is some shocking sound design. The other stuff with the mics and the sound effects was one thing, but that was mental. Cut to the tent sup as Vanessa gets Lance to check out her bruise and he flirts with her some more, much to her dismay. Worth finally returns with food and tells Trish that Patrick must have bailed. He reassures her that everything is going to be fine, which she doesn't seem too convinced over. Cut to that night as everyone is sitting around the campfire. Lance asks Trish to tell them what happened last year, so she does, recapping the events of the previous film, taking the level of flashbacks in this movie dangerously close to Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. She literally takes us scene by scene, showing us all the deaths and eventually the reveal.
It turned out to be Harris. Harris, our guide, who told us the story, was the clown.
After story time is over, they hear a noise with Worth saying that they're just spooked by Trish's story. Adrian says it's not a story, people actually died here, right where they're sitting, but Worth just f***s her off. He tells everyone to get some sleep, with Todd and Vanessa taking one tent, Trish and Adrian taking the other, and Lance, Worth and Shemp taking outside. A little while later, Todd is woken up by a noise. He checks it out, finding Lance, who says he needs to speak to Vanessa. The pair now alone, Vanessa completely changes her tune, with Lance immediately stripping off and giving us another amazing edit. Lance spoofs all up in her about 3 seconds later, and disgusted, Vanessa kicks him out of her tent, which he is totally fine with. Outside, Lance bumps into Clown, who, like Patrick, thinks it's Shemp being a dickhead. Unfortunately, this isn't the case, and Clown uses his machete to cut Lance to ribbons. He then moves on to Vanessa, ending her life with a machete through the mouth and out the back of her head.
Oh my god!
Nice! The killer drags her body away as we cut to morning. Trish wakes up Worth to tell him that Lance and Vanessa are missing. She says again that they should leave, but shock of shocks, Worth still refuses to shut down production. Todd then starts kicking off, saying the killer could be one of them, flat out accusing the suspected killer of the group for being responsible. Trish does whatever that is to Todd and argues back that she only did this to show people the truth, but they don't give a shit.
I know you're willing to put our lives in danger for your stupid movie. Well, f*** you, Worth. I'm leaving.
Finally, f***ing hell. The fact you agreed to do any of this is laughable. Trish then storms off along with Adrian and Todd, leaving Worth with Shemp and no movie.
Shemp? Where you going?
I'm going with the truck, man.
At least help me gather this stuff up! Quitters! Come on, quitters!
Aw, not even Shemp is staying, leaving Worth all on his own. Oh no. Cut to Trish and the others when she stops saying they can't just leave Worth like that. So she drops her bag and tells them to wait for her before running back to camp. Cut to Worth getting out of the tent with his camera after just filming a quick POV. Oh, is that? He's then approached by a clown who quickly dispatches the would-be filmmaker.
Worth?
Trish hears Worth scream and calls out to him, getting no response. Trish finally gets back to camp but finds Worth missing with only his camera left behind. She runs back into the woods using 2 cameras on different light settings when she's jump scared by Todd. Trish asks where the others are and he says Adrian got tired of waiting and Shemp just wandered off. They take off running but have to stop due to Todd having a rumbly tum-tum.
Stop.
Why?
My stomach, it's killing me.
Trish starts wondering aloud if she's actually crazy and this leads to Todd getting the out of there and Trish giving chase. He then trips like an absolute bitch when Clown steps into frame and opens him up. Again, not a bad effect. I think the performance could have been a bit better, mind you. Todd flops into the water and the killer looks at him for a bit before cutting to Trish getting jump scared by Shemp.
Oh my god.
She tries to get him to leave with her, but Shemp instead breaks his bottle over her head and tries to rape her. What the f***? Trish manages to get away when the killer attacks Shemp, carving his eyes out with the broken bottle. Cut to Trish running when the killer appears and we get a good old screaming chase through the woods. The killer catches up with her and we cut to Trish at the fire spot surrounded by the dead cast and crew, where again Trish starts hearing voiceover from the past calling her crazy.
Word, is this chick okay or what?
Yeah, what if she starts having flashbacks when we're out there in the woods?
You're the crazy one, Trisha. You're the one that was locked up in a funny farm.
There are many problems with these lot, but my biggest gripe is Todd being bone dry apart from the specific bloodstain on his shirt. Is that even the same shirt and jeans? The noticeably smaller killer steps out and douses Trish in gasoline before revealing their identity.
Why don't you just kill me?
Not yet.
Adrian.
That's right, Adrian is Harris's sister and is back to take revenge. Trish tries to convince her it was Harris that murdered everyone, but Adrian isn't having any of it, calling Trish a liar and kicking her. Trish starts cutting her ropes with a piece of glass as Adrian continues to deny the truth about her sister. Trish then asks why she killed the others and Adrian says she originally just wanted her, but after having to take out the blonde actress to get on the cast, she liked it and decided to kill everyone. Trish breaks free and attacks Adrian and we watch as the two roll around on the floor for a bit. It's then Trish lights Adrian up, causing her to run into the tent. Wait, hold on a minute. I don't think that's a very good... Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Trish takes off running and crying into the woods when she's suddenly jumped by a now super crispy Adrian. Whose hair, clothes and hands are totally fine. The fire seemed to only affect her face, and affect her face it did. Anyway, we have some more rolling around when Trish grabs the machete and slams it into Adrian's neck, climbs on top of her and puts the killer in the ground for good. What is that sound? Trish goes to walk away when Adrian comes back to life for one last scare and hands her the clown mask. Trish then takes off running one last time and the movie just sorta ends. The end! And I enjoyed it. I'm so glad we got to get a second chapter to Trish's story. Too bad we never see her again. Camp Blood is a film I thought I was going to despise, but I'm happy to say I actually only thought it was shit. The thing I was most scared about was getting a bloodless slasher, so it was a massive relief to see the human bean juice flow freely. Unfortunately, that's where the compliments die a slow and painful death. In a similar fashion, Camp Blood 2 is a film I really enjoyed, if only for the fact that it wasn't a total disaster. Going in, I was convinced it was going to be the same movie again, but worse, ignoring the ending of the first film and throwing a whole new set of teens against clown, but surprisingly, we actually get a second chapter to Trish's story, even if it is an absolutely ridiculous one. Part 1's story is simple enough, with a group of teens camping in the woods. One by one, they're taken out by the killer until the killer's identity is revealed, and we get the incredible twist that most of the film's events were in Trish's head. At least, I think that's what happened. By having the doctor, cop, and nurse all played by the same actors who were playing her friends at the end, I thought the film was suggesting the Woods group were imaginary. But the cop acknowledges her friends are dead and that Harris's blood was all over her friend's car. So if she did have friends, then why are we getting this Wizard of Oz ending? And where's Harris's body? They mentioned the blood, but seemingly no body. Was it actually Harris or Trish? What would be Trish's motive? Did they just run out of actors for the ending? Why the clown mask? Why the was the burned up body in the fire? Why does the killer only hunt his victims in the daytime? Why did I decide this would be a good idea? A whole load of questions there that unfortunately may never be answered in this lifetime or the next. Part 2's story is simple enough, with the director of a low budget slasher movie somehow able to get a suspected murderer out of the loony bin, bring her back to where the murders happened and force her to relive those events until a new killer steps up to the plate. I cannot begin to understand how this happened. And if my suspicions are correct and this is the last time we see Trish, I like to think she got found with the mask, incarcerated again, and is now in some dark, cold room, locked away from the world, crying and while eating her own shit, screaming it was the clown over and over again. Also, with the killer reveal, the motive is all well and good, but why did Adrian kill the couple at the start? How did she already have the mask? When does the first death fit into the timeline? Worth says they thought they lost the costume while on location, so how did she have it in the opening? Or for the blonde death while we're at it. Maybe they were in the woods while the main cast were filming and that was a little side quest. Whatever. Onto the part 1 cast, and everyone is awful. I did like the wildlife woman at the start for some reason. Harris was fine enough and Thatcher was insane, but everyone else sucked. Trish's constant whinging on was especially difficult to deal with, along with Jay's repugnant assholery. Steve and Nicole were also pretty bland, but at least Steve got to do some parkour. And finally, the killer was just awful. A gangly, uncoordinated, doesn't know the meaning of stealth. The director really did not know how to build tension with them at all. And in part 2, everyone's on the same level as before. I think the MVP in this installment has to be the director Worth. That fella is really going for it, where everyone else seems to be sleepwalking through the whole thing. Shemp mostly. Next is the part 1 gore, and thank God they actually tried here. Usually with rip-offs of this nature, you get a small amount of blood splash here and there, but luckily when the clown got to cutting, we got a nice amount of good-looking blood. Again, the wildlife woman looked great, as did Thatcher when he got his, and even Steve's ending wasn't half bad. They weren't amazingly complicated effects, but there was enough blood splashed on top for me to be satisfied. Part 2's gore is a real step up from the previous film. While part 1 got by mostly with the old piece of the blade cut out effect, this one switches things up with a machete through the mouth, full face burn, zombie, and Shemp's gouged out eyes. Not all of it was good, but like I always say, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. Just wait for that clip art blood splatter in the sequel. Onto the presentation, and in part 1 it is comically bad. Yeah, it's shot like an especially terrible Goosebumps episode, and the dialogue sometimes doesn't match the actors' lips, but the biggest and most hilarious offender here is the score. The way it just comes in so randomly and so loud, plus the fact that it feels so much like something out of Resident Evil 1 had me in stitches. I don't know if these bits of music were original compositions or just some royalty-free gunk the director managed to track down, but given the awkward placing, I'm leaning into the latter. Whatever the truth is, I'm now starting to think this might be my favourite aspect of the film. Part 2's production is pretty much exactly the same as the previous movie, almost as if they were shot back to back. They're exactly the same apart from the sound design, which is somehow even worse in this film. Random cuts, the awful sound effects, it was shocking. In the end, Camp Blood is exactly what you'd expect from a Friday the 13th ripoff. Everything that's only barely saved by a nice amount of blood. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do recommend it to fans of this kind of trash, as it's surprisingly not a total waste of time. All in all, Camp Blood 2 is terrible, sure, but it's just as good, if not better, than the first. It continues the story and gives us some fun gore gags films of this nature normally don't even bother with. I think these two would make the perfect spooky night double feature with plenty of drinks and laughs. So that was my review for Camp Blood 1 and 2. What do you lot think? I think they're on the upper end of the quality scale when it comes to these terrible actors getting murdered in the woods movies. And I was surprised by how bloody they were. That girl getting the machete to the mouth was savage. Speaking of which, if you want to see Shemp get his eyes removed with a broken bottle, completely uncut, extended and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. There you can find the uncut version of this review plus others with more stuff being added all the time. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews / comic breakdowns in the Discord. And all that can be yours for as little as $2 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it as I need to put every extra penny into my short film Better Anything. We've got the budget to shoot the film but not quite to finish it, so I need to put all of my Patreon money into that and make sure we get it out as soon as possible. But yeah, patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. See you there. So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and when I say these films take a dip in quality after this, I'm not joking. I think part 5 has blood splashes made out of clip art. I'm gonna have to cover them, aren't I? See you next time.